Welcome to Shankar's Daily News Analysis. Today's date is 8th of January 2025 and today's topic of discussion is these four articles. In this first article, we will discuss about the basics of earthquake and the Lhasa terrain, and in the second article, we will discuss about the basics of CAG, the salary, who appoints them, what is the main function of the CAG. And thirdly, we will discuss how a ISRO chief is appointed and what are the basic functions of him. We will also discuss the basics of ISRO as well. And lastly, we will discuss why Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is celebrated on Jan 9 and how the celebration came into origin and how it is celebrated every 2 years with a key theme. So without further delay, let's get into today's discussion. So look at this article. Here they have discussed how the BJP party has used the CAG report to say that the Aam Aadmi party has spent more on the ads than on the schemes. So here we have to focus how they have used the CAG report, and this is what is important for the prelims. So we will discuss what is CAG, whether it is a constitutional post, and what are the articles coming under it, how they are appointed, what are the qualifications considered, what is the salary, and what are their major functions in this discussion. So this is a constitutional post and it is mentioned in article 148 to 151, and it is very important that it is a independent post, because if there is a interference of the executive in this particular post, because the main function of this CAG post is to audit the accounts of the government spending, and if there is an interference of the executive in that, it will not be fair. So it is a independent authority under the article 48 to 151, and they are responsible to audit the government accounts. So, and here you have to note that they are responsible to audit the government accounts of both the union government as well as the state government. This is a very important point. You might confuse here. So they will also audit the government accounts of the state government also. This is an important thing we have to note here. So he is appointed by the President of India, and there is no specific qualifications which is mentioned here with respect to CAG post, and usually IAS officer or IAS officer will be appointed in the CAG post, and they will function independently of the executive, and I have mentioned why is it so, and this will ensure that they will be fair and will be unbiased in nature, and it will be able to conduct the objective auditing. So he will be appointed by the president, and the tenure of this CAG post is either 65 years or 6 years. So whichever is early, and if he is reaching 65 years before completing the 6 years term, that will be considered. So this is the tenure of the CAG post, and the removal procedure is similar to that of the removal of Supreme Court judges, which is the proved misbehavior or incapacity. In that case, he will be removed, and the salary of the CAG is determined by the parliament, and whenever he is appointed, the salary cannot be changed. This is another fact which you have to remember with respect to the CAG. So now we will see what are the powers and functions of the CAG. So he will audit the receipts as well as expenditure, which is nothing but the income as well as the spending of the government. So this will include the union government, the state government, and the government owned corporations and the entities which are owned by the government resources. All these spendings and receipts are audited by the CAG, and he will submit the report to president in case of the union government, and who will in turn submit it to the parliament. So you have to remember this process. So it is submitted to the president, who will in turn submit to the parliament. Similarly, he will submit to the respective governors in case of the state government, who will submit it to the state legislature in the respective state government auditing reports. And they will also, so the CAG post will also advise on the financial matters, and he will suggest reforms for the financial management and to ensure the accountability of the government spending. This is another function of the CAG. Now we will see what are the roles of the CAG in case of the public finance management. So as already said, they will monitor the receipts, which is the income as well as the expenditure of the union government and state government, and the reports will ensure that the amount, that is a public funds, are used only for the purpose which is intended by the parliament in case of the union government, and state legislature in case of the central government. So they will ensure that the amount are utilized only for the intended purpose, and they will ensure the adherence to the budgeted allocation. This is the first function. And secondly, they will promote the fiscal discipline. So they will ensure that the government will follow the fiscal policy, and they ensure that the public funds are used in a responsible way. This is the another main function. They will also audit the various expenditure in case of the government schemes and ensure that the particular amount is used only for the intended scheme. This is the next important function. And the next function is they will audit the government debt and debt management, and they will ensure that the government is sticking to the sustainable level of the borrowing level. Whether this particular borrowing level we are able to manage or not, they will ensure that. They will also ensure that we are sticking to the repayment schedules. They will ensure the debt management of the government. This is another important functions in case of the CAG role in the public finance management. So the keywords will be adherence to the budget allocation, and they will ensure there is a adherence to the fiscal policy, and they will also help in the debt management of the government. These are the three important keywords here. And next we will see what is the significance of this particular post. So they are the watchdog of public resources. It is nothing but they are the guardian of all the public funds, and they will ensure that the government will be responsible to the taxpayers' money. This is the primary function. And secondly, the main function of them is to provide the audits. So in that way, they are providing some reliable and data to the legislature, and this reliable data can be used for the purpose of holding the executive accountable to the legislature. So this is a one important reliable data which can be used by the legislature to hold the executive responsible or accountable. So this is a very important thing we have to remember. And thirdly, with the help of the compliance and the performance audit, this particular audit will help us to identify if there is any corruption or inefficiency in the governance, and it will also help us to promote the sustainable governance. This is another important significance of the CAG. And this audits and data are made public. Certain things are made public. This will help us to ensure the transparency within the working of the government and how the public funds and the taxpayers' monies are utilized. But we can ensure whether the amount intended in the parliament is used in the particular intended way. So in that way, it will promote the transparency and accountability within the working of the government. So these are the things which you have to remember. The important crisp facts which you have to remember is it is a constitutional post, and the articles 148 to 151, he is appointed by the president. The tenure, which is 65 years or 6 years, and the salary, which is determined by the parliament, and the removal, which is similar to that of the Supreme Court judge. And we should ensure that the amount is used in the respective intended purposes, and they will audit the accounts of both union and state government. This is an important thing which you have to remember. So with this understanding, let's see a prelims practice question. Which committee examines the audit reports of the CAG submitted to the parliament? So the answer is A, which is the Public Account Committee. So they will examine the audit reports of the CAG which is submitted to the parliament. So with this, we'll conclude the discussion on this article, and now let's move on to the next one. So in this particular article, they have discussed that a 7.1 magnitude of earthquake has hit the Lhasa terrain, which is located in the Tibet, and this is not new because this area is prone to the seismic activity, and it has recorded almost 21 earthquakes in the past 70 years approximately, and the earthquakes are of magnitude of 6.1 plus in the past 70 years. And this is because it is a tectonically active region, because the Indian plates collide with the Eurasian plate in this region, and it is a highly seismic active zone. So what we have to learn from the prelims perspective is that we have to learn the basics of earthquake and why it is prevalent in this region particularly. So let's start with the basics, and as already said, this is where the Lhasa is located. It is located in the southern Tibet region, and if you say this Lhasa terrain was actually a part of Gondwana, which is a supercontinent, and it is located in the southern hemisphere. And after that, during the Mesozoic era, this Lhasa terrain broke down and it started to move towards northwards. And after that, in around 100 million years ago, this Lhasa terrain actually collided with the Eurasian plate. So if we say here is the Lhasa plate and here is the Eurasian plate. So this Lhasa plate collided with this Eurasian plate, and this led to the upliftment of the Tibetan plateau, which is located in the Eurasian plate, and this led to the formation of Himalayan region. So this is what regarding the location of the Lhasa plate, and this is where it is seismically active, and it is recorded a magnitude of 7.1 earthquake in the last year. So what is an earthquake? Earthquake is nothing but it is the intense shaking of earth crust due to the release of energy within the lithosphere. So if we say here is the earth, and this is a point where the origin of earthquake happens, and it is a source of release of the energy, and this point is called as the focus. The other name is called as the hypocenter. So and the point which is directly above it is called as the epicenter, and it is located on the surface of earth. So this term can be usually interchanged with the prelims question. So you have to note that the focus is located within the earth crust while the epicenter is located on the earth's surface. And after the release of energy in this focus, it travels in all the direction within the body of the earth. So they will travel in all the direction. So these waves are called as the body waves because they travel through the body of the earth, and we have two types. One is the P waves and second we have the S waves. So these P waves are nothing but primary waves because these waves are the first to be detected, and they have the capacity to travel through the solid, liquid and gaseous state, and these are the first to be detected, so they are called as the primary waves. And the wave propagation is in such a way that they travel in a direction which is parallel to the direction of waves. So if the direction of waves is in this way, the P waves will also travel in this direction, that is it is like to and fro, and it is in case of compression and rarefaction, so it will travel in this way, while the S waves are called as the secondary waves because it is the second waves to be detected compared to the P waves, and they can travel only through the solids. So you can remember S waves, S can travel only through S, which is solids. So these are the two types of waves. And in the body waves, secondly we have the surface waves. So these body waves will travel through the body of the earth, and they will reach the earth's surface. While they interact with the earth's surface, they will form the surface waves. So we have two types of waves, which is the Love waves and the Rayleigh waves. So these are the most damaging waves in the earthquake waves type because they travel through this on the surface of the earth. And we have to know another point is that these secondary waves and surface waves travel perpendicular to the direction of waves. So they move in this way. So these are the differences you have to remember. It is traveling parallel to the direction of waves, it is traveling perpendicular to the direction of waves. And we have another concept which we have to understand. I have to talk about the shadow zones because I have said the P waves can travel only through solids and liquid and gas. They can travel through all the three states. So when they move from one, that is, we know that the outer core is liquid in nature. So in this transition, there is a diversion of the angle of the wave. So the shadow zone is a region where the waves will not be recorded. This is called as the shadow zone, and the shadow zone of the P waves is about 103 to 143 degree. But with respect to S waves, these shadow zones are beyond the 143 degree because they can travel only through solid and the outer core of the earth is liquid, so they cannot travel through this particular part. So these are the differences which you have to understand. So let me say that P waves, S waves. So we said it is the primary waves, secondary waves, it can travel through the solid, liquid and gas, it can travel only through solid, and the shadow zone is from 103 to 143, while here it is beyond the 103, and they travel parallel to the direction of wave, they travel perpendicular to the direction of wave. These are the key points which you have to remember, nothing much. So after seeing this, now let's see about the types of earthquakes. So we have many types. Let's discuss about the tectonic plate movements. We generally have three types of plate movements, right? So talking about the subduction zones which cause the earthquakes. So here we have the North American plate, which is the continental plate, and we have the oceanic plate, which is the Pacific plate. So the oceanic plate is usually denser and it will subside under the continental plate, which is lighter. So this leads to the subduction zone. The oceanic plate will move under the continental plate and this lead to the formation of subduction zone, and this will lead to the formation of earthquakes. So here we can see the red color region, it is called as the ring of fire, where the earthquakes happen majorly. And secondly, we have the transform boundaries, where the plates will move, they will slide past each other in a horizontal way. So this is called as the transform boundaries, and this will also cause a earthquake in that region. So for example, we have the San Andreas fault, and secondly we also have this that is discussed in this article. So we have the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate. Both these plates are continental plate, so there is a doubling of crust which is happening, and this is also causing a seismic activity in this region. So this is another type of earthquake which is caused by the tectonic plate movement, and this is a divergent plate movement because the Southern American plate is moving this way and the African plate is moving this way. So because of the divergent plate movement, there will be a formation of mid-oceanic ridges, and this also causes a minor earthquake. So we have discussed about the subduction zone, the collision zones which is formed due to the collision of the continental plate and the another continental plate, that is the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate in this example. And we have talked about the transform boundaries, where the plates will slide past each other, one in this way and another in this way. So this is another example, and divergent plate boundaries also we have discussed. So they have quoted the example of mid-Atlantic ridges. So these are the things which you have to understand. And nextly we will talk about the volcanic activity. Because of the eruption of lava and magma from the earth, the magma movement can also cause the earthquake. This is another example of the type of earthquake. So it is a volcano induced earthquake, and because of the hotspot volcano, like in the case of Hawaii, this can also cause earthquake. And not only this, we also have the human induced activity, which can the anthropogenic activities which can cause the earthquakes. For example, if we are conducting intense mining, because of the blasting, the excavation, this can cause instability within the earth crust, and this can also cause the earthquake. And because of the reservoir, because I have talked about the Lhasa terrain, so the Lhasa terrain is the home to the world's largest hydroelectric dam. So because of the high amount of water stored in a collective place, this can cause a intense pressure on the earth along the fault lines, and this can also induce the earthquake. For example, we have the Koyna Dam. And fracking, which is nothing but we are going to inject fluid in a high pressure way into the earth to extract all the oils and gases. So this fracking procedure can also induce earthquake. And while geothermal energy extraction, where we are going to drill into deeper depths to extract the heat to generate geothermal energy, so this can also generate the these can also cause the earthquake. So these are the types of earthquake. We have talked about the tectonic plate movement induced earthquake, the volcanic induced earthquake. We have also talked about the anthropogenic induced earthquake. So now, having discussed about the types of earthquakes, next we are going to talk about how these earthquake can be measured. So whether we can measure the magnitude, which is nothing but we are going to measure what is the amount of energy which is released at the source of the earthquakes. So firstly we have the Richter scale, and using this Richter scale, it is a logarithmic scale, and we have like one whole number, like from example it is from 5 to 6, it shows that there is a 10 times increase in the amount of shaking, and there is a 31.6 times the amount of energy released than comparing to the 5 to 6. This is what they have talked about here. It measures the magnitude of the earthquakes. Similarly, to measure the magnitude of earthquakes, we have another scale, which is the moment magnitude scale. It is a modern and more accurate scale, and they consider all other factors such as the what is the fault slip, the area, and the rigidity. And nextly, we can also measure the intensity, which measures that what is the damage which is caused because of the earthquakes. The damage on the people, the objects, the buildings, and the earth's surface, the damaging potential, or what is the observed damage is called as the measurement of this, what damage is caused is called as the intensity measurement. And for that we have an example of modified Mercalli intensity. So it ranges from various scale 1 to scale 12, and scale 1 says that there is no much damage observed, and scale 12 says that it is a major destruction observed. So this is intensity and this is a magnitude. Magnitude measures the amount of energy, intensity measures the amount of damage caused because of the earthquake. Know the basic difference. So seismograph, so here there also twist. So seismographs are instruments which are used to measure the ground motion, while the representation of this seismographs, that is the visual representation in the form of waves, is called as the seismogram. So in this article we have discussed about the Lhasa terrain earthquake. So this is located in the Tibet, and the magnitude is of 7.1 magnitude, and it is located, we have talked about this. So this region is the source of the Yarlung Sangpo river. If you know what is the name of this river in India, you can comment in the comment section. And Himalayan region, this is where the earthquake has happened. So it is called as the third pole because it is the source of all the important glaciers and the lakes, which are source of many rivers in India and as well as other countries. For example, in India, the Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra, all the glacier sources are located in the Himalayan regions. Also, the Mekong river also originates from the glaciers located in the Himalayan regions. Talking about the geological context, I have said this Indian plate collides with the Eurasian plate. So this collision and the movement is happening at the, for 1 year, there is a movement of about 60 millimeter. Even though it's very minimal, it can cause a huge impact in case of the earthquakes and other seismic activities. And as already said, it is highly seismic in nature. The environmental concerns here is that the Himalayan region is called as the third pole, and it is a source of major rivers to the important nation, and it ensures there is a water security to all the regions which are located near the rivers. So because of the melting and lake destabilization because of the earthquake, this can damage the water security in this region. So this is the environmental concern we have. And now let's see a prelims practice question with respect to the Lhasa terrain. So it is a tectonic fragment of the earth crust. Yes, it is true, and it is located in the Himalayan region, and it is seismically active. Yes, that is why there is an earthquake here. And the river Yarlung Sangpo flows through this terrain. Yes, this region is host to the world's largest hydroelectric dam, which is constructed on this particular river. Thirdly, it is entirely located within the boundaries of India. No, that is incorrect. So the correct option would be A, 1, 2 and 3 only. So with this, we'll conclude the discussion on this article, and now let's move on to the next one. So the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, also known as the Indian Diaspora Day, has begun today in the Odisha. So it is also known as the Indian Diaspora Day, and this event is going to be conducted by almost 3,000 delegates, which are coming from almost 70 countries, and it is going to be inaugurated by our Prime Minister Modi and the President of Trinidad and Tobago. So if you have never heard about this country, let me show that in the map. It is located in the southern Caribbean Sea, and it is in the northeast of Venezuela. So it is located in this region, and the capital is known as the Port of Spain. So this president is attending our event, and it is usually celebrated on Jan 9. So let me explain why it is celebrated on Jan 9 in the upcoming slides. And as already said, this event is celebrated to recognize what is the contribution made by the Indian diaspora for the development of India. So if you wonder what is this term diaspora, it is nothing but it is a large group of people who have spread from their homeland to the various part of the world. This is called as the diaspora, and they have the shared origin with the original homeland. With it can be a country, the ethnicity of them, or the religion. So they have a shared origin in these aspects. It is called as the diaspora, and from their original homeland they will migrate to the different parts of the world. Even though they reside in the different parts of the world, they will have a strong connection, and they will have a strong sense of identity connected to their homeland. So this can be culture with the help of language or any social connection. This is called as the diaspora. And to recognize what are the contributions made by these diaspora, we are celebrating the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. This is what we have to understand about this term. And now let's see why it is celebrated on Jan 9. So it is the date when Mahatma Gandhi ji arrived to India in 1915 from southern Africa. So for this purpose, for this reason, it is celebrated on Jan 9, and to honor the contribution and to recognize the contribution made by these Indian diaspora, we are celebrating this. So it all originated based on the recommendation of a high level committee on the Indian diaspora, which is chaired by the L.M. Singhvi. So this committee recommended the celebration of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and in 2002 Jan 9, the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he announced the celebration of this event, and it was first celebrated on 2003, which is organized by the Ministry of External Affairs. So this is a very important thing. It is organized by the Ministry of External Affairs, and since 2015 it is celebrated every 2 years, and each year it will have a separate theme. And the theme for this particular year is what is India's contribution for the Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat is translated as the developed India. What is the contribution for these diaspora for the development of, for the formation of the developed India? This is the theme for this particular year, and this particular event which is mentioned in this article is going to start on this particular day and will be going up to 9th. So the PM has actively called for the contribution of the diaspora for the development of India. So they have stressed about the Viksit Bharat in this particular event, and they have also launched a specific Pravasi Bharatiya Express on this event. So this is a special train for the Indian diaspora, and it will connect Delhi to all the historical and cultural location to have a visit. This is another thing which is done in this convention. And what is the main purpose of this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas? First is to recognize them, and this recognition is also done with the help of a specific award which is offered to the Indian diaspora, which is called as the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award. So this is a highest honorary award which is offered to the NRI, and it is offered to NRI, the persons of Indian origin, and organization which is funded by the Indian diaspora. So it is the highest honorary award which is offered to the diaspora, Indian diaspora in India. So I have to note this. To recognize them, we are conducting this event. Also, it will also help us to connect India with the diaspora and make use of the knowledge, expertise of these diaspora people to develop the India. So this is another important purpose. And the annual convention. So this convention usually happens from 9 January 7 to 9 generally, and it will help the Indian diaspora to bring them closer to the policy makers and the business leaders to make use of their knowledge and expertise. So this is called this is what we have to understand about the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. So the key facts would be it is celebrated on Jan 9th, and why it is celebrated, and it is organized by the Ministry of External Affairs, and we have to know about the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award. These are the three important terms which you have to remember and facts which you have to remember, and it is also recommended by the LM Singhvi committee. These are the important facts. With this, let's conclude the discussion on this article. We'll also see a prelims practice question for this particular article. So consider the following statements. The Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is celebrated annually on Jan 9th to commemorate the return of Mahatma Gandhi from South Africa to India on Jan 9, 1915. Yes, this is correct. Option 2, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is organized by the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs. No, it is organized by the Ministry of External Affairs. So whenever there is some day, by which ministry it is organized, you have to make note of this. So the correct option would be 1, only A. With this, we'll conclude the discussion on this article, and now let's move on to the next one. So this is the final article that we're going to discuss today, and they have talked about the appointment of rocket scientist V. Narayanan as the chief of the ISRO. So we will focus how ISRO chief is appointed and what are their functions, and we will also have a quick view about the ISRO. So ISRO, also known as the Indian Space Research Organization, was founded in the year 1965 under Vikram Sarabhai, and this comes under the Department of Space, and the major first milestone of them is to launch the first satellite known as the Aryabhatta in the year 1975. So these are the main programs and mission which is launched by the ISRO. First we have the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, which is called as the workhouse of ISRO. They launch the satellites into the polar orbits. And secondly, we have the Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, or the GSLV Mach 3 or the LMV 3. So they are designed for launching the heavier payloads, and they launch the satellites into geostationary orbits, that is GSLV, and it is also this LMV3 is also used to in case of the human space flights. And we have the Chandrayaan missions in case of the lunar exploration, and recently we have achieved the soft landing into the moon's south pole with the help of the Chandrayaan 3 mission, which is successful. And we also have a cost effective interplanetary mission called as the Mangalyaan, and we also have the Indian human spaceflight program called as the Gaganyaan. So these are the some main programs and missions which are launched by the ISRO. Now we will see the appointment of the ISRO chief. So for the purpose of this appointment, we have a committee called as the Appointment Committee of the Cabinet, and the composition of this particular cabinet committee is that it consists of Prime Minister and the Union Minister in case of the Ministry of Home Affairs. So these are the composition. They are responsible in the appointment in the various ministry, department and the PSU. And in case of appointment of ISRO chief, it is recommended by the Department of Personal Training. So the recommendation is done by them, and based on the recommendation, the appointment committee of cabinet will approve this. So added to the position of the ISRO chief, he will also act as the secretary of the Department of Space, and he will also be the chairperson of the Space Commission. These are the two additional posts the ISRO chief will have. So these are the things with respect to the appointment of the ISRO chief. Now let's see what are the functions. So these are the key functions. He will decide all the space programs. He will oversee the missions in the technological development in ISRO, and he is also responsible to coordinate all the global space agency, and he will also help in the private partnership in case of the space. So the key facts which you have to remember is, it is the appointment is done by the Appointment Committee of the Cabinet, and this committee consists of Prime Minister as well as the Union Minister of Home Affairs, and he also, the recommendation is done by the Department of Personal Training and it is approved by the Appointment Committee of the Cabinet, and he has the additional 2 posts. You can comment that in the comment section. So these are the key facts which you have to remember. So with this, let's see a prelims practice question. So this is the previous year question, which is taken from 2018. So the first statement is PSLV launches satellites useful for Earth resource monitoring, whereas GSLV are designed mainly to launch the communication satellite. Yes, this is correct. So the GSLV will be stationary in the orbit. So that is helpful in case of communication, while the PSLV will revolve around the Earth in the pole, from one pole to another pole. It will help in the monitoring. So this is correct. And secondly, we have the satellite launched by the PSLV appear to be remain permanently fixed in the same position. So this is the key word, as viewed from the particular location on the Earth. So it is true to the GSLV, not PSLV. So this is incorrect. GSLV Mach 3 is a 4-stage vehicle. No. So this is the key term here. It is a 3-stage launch vehicle, and the 3-stage consists of 1, the solid, second, the liquid, and third we have the cryogenic. So the cryogenic consists of the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. This is the 3-stage vehicle, launch vehicle. So the correct option would be A1 only. With this, we'll conclude the discussion on this article. We have come to end of today's video. If you found the video informative, do hit like. Prelims is coming soon. If you want informative video with respect to current affairs and its basic, you can definitely watch the videos of Shankar IAS Academy. So don't forget to subscribe, and thank you. Have a nice day.